he slams his fist on the table and he starts yelling at her. It's almost like he's ready to transform, but then she pulls out the gun and aims it at him. That's a really intense scene, especially with the Hulk character that we know. What could happen if Banner's triggered to violence or to some, you know what I mean? So it's a really intense scene, and there's a sigh of relief from the viewer after, at least for me, because it's been a while since I've seen it. You know, he was like, "Stop lying to me," and then he stops, and it's like, okay, well, you know, he's just calming himself down, but her reaction is what everybody's reaction would be if something was to be coming forth like that. So my question is this: how did you enjoy Ruffalo as the new Hulk?
I like Ruffalo as the Hulk. Taking out the original Hulk movies, you know, like the 60s or 70s movies.
Sure.
But just doing the ones where, like, he was jumping around in the Grand Canyon and nonsense. They were terrible. But he was a great Hulk. But he also, and I hate to say it, it's not Ruffalo's fault. It's a fault of the character. He's so overpowered, you can't make a movie about him that's entertaining.
Yes.
You know, he can't be the centerpiece hero because there's nothing that makes the stakes high enough that makes me care about how this movie is going to go.
And you know, you bring that up in Thor Ragnarok, where you see that he is not the centerpiece, but he is the buddy cop to Thor. That's an example of what you were saying. I think Ruffalo's character of the Hulk, or Ruffalo's portrayal of Bruce Banner, is spot on to what the director wanted. For sure, absolutely. I could not see Ed Norton, nor could I see Eric Bana playing what Ruffalo did, because they're playing, and maybe it's me, maybe you felt the same way. I felt like the first half of the movie, maybe even 3/4, had a theme of duality, because the Hulk had problems trying to contain. Okay, Widow had problems keeping her head straight because Barton was taken. Rogers comes out as this squeaky clean, hey, you're here for the bomb, that's all I care about. But then they start mentioning Nick Fury's plan. We'll get to it later. I'm jumping ahead, but there's a reason why I'm doing this, and that's for duality. And you see that they're trying to tell Cap about Nick Fury's true plan, and it kind of makes him think a little bit. And with Iron Man, go ahead.
What I found so interesting about that is he still doesn't care what Nick Fury's plan is if he feels like he's doing the right thing for the society.
Right. He's being himself.
Right.
What he knows. You know, forgetting about Nick Fury's plan, it's what he knows and what he's thinking.
And that just so happens to line up with Nick Fury at the moment, but
correct.
When it doesn't, he's done with Nick Fury. You know, that's how it came off to me.
Right.
Going on with your duality, yes, and obviously there's a huge duality issue inside of Stark because he made a living off of, you know, he made his fortune off of selling weapons.
Mm-hmm.
That's how his father made a fortune. That's how he made a fortune. And he may have changed that, but that doesn't change the fact that that's what happened. But more importantly, there's a duality throughout this movie of Captain and Iron Man. Both the de facto leaders of the Avengers, but neither one of them standing alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And which leads to civil war later on in the series and everything, but basically they're both kind of the leader, and they're seemingly diametrically opposed. However, we find out they are very much the same.
Hold on. Diametrically. I gotta get the dictionary out. Hold on. No, but you're absolutely right. You have two, and with Tony Stark always being the center of attention, it's kind of a pushback, a kind of a layback to co-captain this team, basically. You know, he does throw his 2 cents and 5 cents in, you know, but really, You're absolutely right. There's the duality of him selling weapons to him helping people by putting the sustainable energy in Stark Tower. That's another point of duality as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, he, like you said, there's a part where Captain America and Iron Man are actually arguing, and Cap says, "Take that off, and what are you?" And Stark goes, "Genius, billionaire, philanthropist, playboy." So the one-liners are great there because that's hilarious. But then Cap even responds with, "I know guys with none of that are worth 10 of you. You are no hero." And by the way, as much as you want Captain to be right at that moment when he says that, and you're like, "Yeah," Stark's answer is just as valid. He goes, "Hero, you? You're nothing but a science experiment." Look, one of the things, Captain America is all that is great with America, right? That's how we're supposed to portray this. But what Marvel Comics did was they created what the Nazis were doing to fight the Nazis, the perfect human. I mean, it's almost the definition of what we were against, right?
Right.
And yet this is our hero. Now, it's not supposed to be portrayed that way, but, I mean, even kind of Tony Stark kind of calls it out for what it is, that, yeah, you're great, but you were just a scrawny little kid, you know. A lot of this is fake.
Right.
And Tony Stark can basically say, "Take that away, and what are you?" The difference here is that Captain America is trying to make the point that you're only in it for you. You're only here because you can make money and whatever. Where I was given this serum, the super serum, because when they threw a grenade, I was the only one who jumped on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was the only one brave enough.
Right, and who cared enough about the other troops.
That's right.
To eat it.
Yeah.
You know, what are your thoughts on Loki just trying to take over the Earth? Did that seem like a valid plot point to you?
Loki is a trickster. It's made in the comics. It's made in the movie. Was it a valid plot point? No, but he was the Trojan horse. He was the fool's fool. You know, we see that throughout the movie. I didn't think it was a valid plot point that he was trying to take over. I think what became more the plot point was the fact that he was the pawn, overall the pawn in the game.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they try and push it off on the fact that it's kind of like revenge towards his brother because his brother loves Earth. But his brother loves a lot of things. Like, I don't know.
He loves conditioner because that blonde hair coming down is just so silky soft. Yes.
Yeah, pretty beautiful. But like, yeah, right. Take over conditioner plants. But no, so he's going to take over Earth and destroy it just to get back at his brother. I guess that's a theory. And it didn't really hurt the movie that that's what they did because it gets it to Earth. It gets the Avengers involved. But like you said, he was nudged that way, which we'll talk about in the credit cookie by someone.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't explain that out during the movie, so you were always kind of wondering, like, is he really this mad? Like, seriously? But he does explain it off with saying, you know, well, I was always in your shadow, and that's why I'm here. This is why I'm doing it, because I'm sick and tired of you being Dad's favorite, you know?
Yeah, and it's, you know, take the ball and go home. You know, but this is what he wants to do. He's the god of mischief. He's the trickster. He's going to do what he wants to get his way. And this is part of, but like I said earlier, he becomes the fool's fool. He becomes the pawn in the game.
Right. And he pays for it to some degree, you know. Speaking of tricksters and stuff, though, the one-liners in this movie are amazing.
Hands down.
They do, like, Guardians of the Galaxy is really good, but it's a little heavy on comedy, right?
Yeah.
This movie scales back the comedy, but when they use it, it always hits. So you have at one point where, and that brings us, we didn't even do it. I'm sorry, I'm jumping backwards. Thor's entrance was phenomenal.
Yes.
So they catch Loki. Loki is being brought back, and all of a sudden thunder and lightning happens, and they look at him and go, "What, are you afraid of a little lightning?" And he goes, "Well, I'm not overly fond of what happens next." And Thor comes flying down and lands on the plane. Captain America goes, "We need an attack plan," and Iron Man's like, "I have a plan. Attack." Jumps out. He loses, but whatever. they end up getting, he ends up stealing Loki. Iron Man comes flying down after him at that point, right? And he goes, "You need to listen to me, brother." And Iron Man hits Thor at that moment. I'm listening. It's just, I know, just listening to me say it doesn't make sense, but watching it, the way it all plays out is hysterical.
The one-liners is fantastic, and you're right. Comedy hits. There's a difference between too much and too little, but right in between. When you say something 3 times, when you tell a joke and you say something 3 times, that's the comedy rule. 3 times and then that's it. And Guardians of the Galaxy, we'll get to it later, but that was more comical. Thor Ragnarok was comical. We'll get to that
Thor
later.
Ragnarok, great movie. It did rely a little heavy on the comedy for me. To me, Guardians of the Galaxy characters are built for comedy. Thor is not. However, I really, really enjoyed that movie. I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of Ragnarok. Not that this is a Ragnarok podcast, but it definitely was, well, Guardians of the Galaxy is doing really well. Let's do that again.
Yeah. And it's just part of the thing. But the one-liners did hit. I laughed. I chuckled.
Even when they said things like, Loki is a prisoner, then why does he feel like the only one that wants to be here? Now, it turns out that's because he does want to be there to get Hulk. But when it hit, it was funny.
Right.
They're talking about the Hulk, and the Hulk says, it turns very serious very quickly, but they talk about the cage that Loki's in, saying, you built a cage to kill me, but the joke's on you because I can't die. And that was funny, but then he goes, well, I know because I tried because it got really low and I put a brain in my mouth, gun in my mouth, pulled the trigger, and the other guy spit out the bullet. And I love the fact that Hulk, not trying to kill himself, what I love is that Banner keeps talking about the Hulk as the other guy. He hasn't figured out how to be one being yet.
Exactly. Duality. He is the monster of all monsters.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde, which is definitely how Stan Lee played it to be. And the journey, and this is why I love Mark Ruffalo in his role, is that he plays the journey to have both of them come together as one so well. And it's based on the writing, that's for certain. But the way he acted it, because he himself, Banner himself was afraid. Banner himself was afraid of the Hulk. Meanwhile, that's him. So he himself was afraid. So he doesn't know what's going on.
Nope, and he can't control the Hulk's thoughts, who doesn't think when he's the Hulk.
Right.
At first. That kind of plays later, but at first it's almost like the Hulk doesn't think, he just attacks. And Banner can't stop that because he can't think, which is amazing because Banner's a genius and does nothing but think.
Right, yeah.
Another great part is when they're fighting, when they're all kind of arguing, and he says, what are we, a team? No, we're a chemical time bomb.
Yes.
That was a great line in the movie because they kind of are, and that kind of plays out, and that kind of reverberates through the MCU later when people blame them for the New York incident.
That's correct. That plays in the Civil War because it also does. They also add Sokovia to that as well for the Sokovian Accords, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That scene bothered me a little bit, and I'll tell you why. The staff has the Soul Stone, and all throughout the movie, the staff had to touch the individual for it to work. Okay? But yet, it's laid out on a counter, and the effects of the Soul Stone affect the Avengers.
So I've always played that in my head. So I guess my headcanon for that would be that's why it couldn't control them. It just affected them.
Okay.
It caused them to argue, but they weren't under anyone's control. They weren't taken possession of like Hawkeye was.
Right.
It was just that their mood changed, and what was kind of bubbling under the surface came to the top.
Yeah, I'll definitely play that the next time I see it. But for years, when I watch this movie on and off, I get stuck at